And kinesiotaping.
Yes.
What's that?
Well, if you ask Lance Armstrong, he'll call it the magic tape. Basically, Lance is the one who kind of brought it to popularity over here in the States about, I would say, 5 or 6 years ago when he was using it in the tours. But kinesiotaping has been around for about 25, 30 years or so, and it's basically the gold standard of rehabilitative taping now. It's not like your standard white athletic tape where you tape your ankle up and it's nice and solid and splinted and you can't move it. Kinesiotape is designed to move with the muscles of the body. It actually has the ability to stretch to 140% times its natural length. And
it's Japanese in origin,
yep,
correct?
Yeah, Kenzio Case is the developer of kinesiotaping. And over in Japan, they actually use kinesiotaping as we use first aid over here. So you walk into a CVS over there, if they have CVSs over there, and you can buy kinesiotape over the counter and people know how to use it.
Who's eligible or who would benefit from the use of kinesiotaping?
Everybody does, but primarily we apply it to a lot of our athletes. I'll say for a good example would be, like I said, the marathon's coming up in about 6 or 8 weeks. Runners now are having some overuse injuries, and commonly they're shin splints. And shin splints, we all know, they just don't go away unless you rest. Well, I had my experience. I got certified to do kinesiotaping about 4 years ago, and I've had plenty of experience with shin splints, but I taped somebody who had shin splints saying, okay, let's see if this stuff is really as magic as it seems. This person couldn't run a mile. They got taped, and they ran the entire marathon without any pain whatsoever.
Who typically comes to Boston Bodyworkers?
It used to be more geared towards athletes, I think, because that's who my base clientele was, but now I think the word has spread that, injuries aren't subjective to just an athlete. We have computer athletes that sit behind desks all day long. We have salespeople that are sitting in cars all day long. They're basically all overuse injuries. So it's open to everybody that comes through there.
How do folks typically hear about you?
Well, through shows like this, I'll say. But I think at the same time, it's word of mouth. I mean, people trust the word of their friends. So we've built up quite a reputation amongst our patients that they become raving fans of our business.
Or at least fans. What information do you need before a client gets on the massage table?
When a patient comes into Boston Bodyworker, they'll fill out a brief intake form, but I try not to overwhelm them with too many questions. The therapists at the Boston Bodyworker are trained to assess and evaluate before they treat an injury, so they'll ask you questions that are pertaining to your injury, and they have strong clinical reasoning skills, meaning they'll play detective. So I use it as an example. When somebody comes in and says, I was just at home and I bent over to pick up a pencil and my back went out. I call that the 1,000-pound pencil rule. That's a heavy freaking pencil to knock your back out from just bending over to pick it up. We need to dig deeper. Were they gardening over the last couple of weeks? Did they play flag football? Do they have kids? We need to ask the right questions to get the right history.
What should patients wear?
Doesn't matter. As soon as they get in the room, they go through the evaluation process. Before the treatment starts, the therapist typically leaves the room, and they can disrobe whatever their comfort level is. Most patients get down to just their underwear. You can take your underwear off, and you're always draped underneath the sheet properly, so,
How important is observation for a therapist, and what do you look for before you begin?
Observation is the number 2 tool that we use when a patient walks in the door. There's a method called Hoppers. It's an acronym that stands for history, what we just discussed with the clinical reasoning.
O must be observation.
O must be observation, exactly. Then we have palpation, resistive testing, and special orthopedic tests, okay? We have to go through that process in order to do an evaluation properly.
How much can your hands tell you?
The massage therapists have very sensitive fingertips, okay? And that's obviously a skill that's developed over time. It's not just something that you're just born with. It's about working on a lot of bodies. But it's like reading Braille is the way I explain it to my patients. As I'm working on a muscle, I've worked on enough muscles to know what should and should not be there, and you can pick that up pretty easily.
Do you start at the head and work down? Typically?
It really depends. Again, when you come to Boston Bodyworker, your experience for massage is going to be unlike anything you've had before, where you're not just going to say, okay, we're just going to go from head to toe, and that's going to be your massage treatment. You come in, and we focus on the area that needs to be treated. If your hip is the problem, and we realize that it may be coming from something going on with an old shoulder injury, we'll get up to your shoulder, but we're going to take the right assessment to figure out where we need to start and finish.
How much pressure do you apply?
The easy way to explain it to my patients is what I say. We like to match tissue tension. So I apply pressure to the muscle tissue. I'll feel the muscles start to fibrillate beneath my fingers. That's when I start to back off a little bit. If I start to feel the muscle tighten up against me, all it's going to be do is me fighting you the whole time.
Do you use your fingertips?
I use my fingertips.
Do you use the sides of your hands?
I use everything.
Elbows?
Elbows, knuckles.
How often and why would you try to get down as deep as possible? Would you try to get down to where the rubber hits the road, as it were?
Well, I guess it depends, again, is a good answer, but I can tell you I have a patient that I see that I've actually touched the anterior aspect of his spine before because I had to get deep into his psoas muscle. So it really depends upon the condition of what you're trying to treat. But you don't always need to get deep for the work to work.
Does a clinical massage hurt?
It could. Doesn't always hurt, but it could. There are times because you're working on areas that typically aren't worked on.
It can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the key to it though. It's not a matter if it doesn't hurt doesn't mean it's not working, and we typically like to stay around that good hurt sort of feeling. So it's that feeling of like if they press any harder, it's going to hurt.
There's that great old song, "You got to be cruel to be kind."
And it's true. You need to sometimes get in there, and some of the work is going to be uncomfortable because you're dealing with injuries.
How soon, Drew, before you see results?
It depends upon the injury again, but I mean, oftentimes people come in and they'll see results within the first visit, but are they cured within the first visit? Very unlikely. It's going to take several treatments to get you where you need to be.
Which is my next question. How long can it take before some long-term problems are resolved? If it's taken you years to get that knot in my shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, when somebody comes through, it really depends upon each person. I mean, Matt, you and I could have the same job for the last 20 years, but our bodies are still different. We still have different genetics, so everybody's body's going to respond differently to the treatment.
What is your goal as a massage therapist at the beginning of every massage?
To build trust. To build trust with the patient, because a lot of the work you can be doing can become invasive. And I always say to the therapist, you might actually be the most congenial person in the world and likable person, but it takes the patient's body to trust you and get to know you before they can kind of let you in. Primarily, when somebody comes in, we like to educate them as to what they need to do outside of the office so they don't need to come in as frequently.
What's with the tennis ball that you give everybody?
Tennis balls are great because they're forgiving. Don't use lacrosse balls. I know lacrosse season's coming up. Lacrosse balls aren't as forgiving as a tennis ball, but tennis balls, we can help you. We give them out at the office, and we just allow you to kind of roll over different trigger points and show you how to apply pressure to those areas.
Will you be sore the next day?
Commonly, yeah, you'll be a little sore, but it'll feel like a soreness, like a post-workout kind of soreness.
Black and blue?
It happens on occasion, but not all the time.
More or less flexible?
If you're sore, you might feel less flexible, but once the soreness goes away, you'll be more flexible.
How much does a clinical massage at Boston Bodyworker cost?
Well, we offer health insurance discounts there, so I think for an initial massage, it's $130 for an hour. But 99.9% of the people that come through, we offer a health insurance discount for. So it would be $104 for your first visit, and then subsequent visits would be $100 with your health insurance discount. And then we offer what's known as partnership plans at Boston Bodyworker, which allow even more affordability to our services if you come in more frequently.
What's your corporate massage membership program?
Well, we have a corporate chair massage. So we'll go out to different offices and we'll provide on-site chair massage for different companies. Right on site for those employees that they have there. What
kind of benefits will athletes see from this kind of massage on a regular basis?
The biggest benefit they'll receive is a faster recovery. They'll get a faster recovery from their workouts and enable them to get back out there and do what they need to do, and they have a less risk for reoccurring injuries.
How about just regular old gym goers?
Same thing. You know, we go to the gym, we all work out. You know, when you go to the gym, you're not building muscle, you're actually tearing it down. So when you leave the gym, you need to get a massage. You want to kind of help that tissue rebuild itself, and that's what a massage will do.
Is there a transfer of energy between the patient and the massage therapist? And if you're working on all this sort of serious, not fun stuff, how do you get that energy out of your own body?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a transfer of energy. I mean, I don't really get into that world too much on my own, but there's definitely legitimate energy being transferred. And I, at the end of the day, people always ask, you know, how do you do 10 massages in a day? Because it's so physically demanding. And it's, you know what, it's physically demanding, but it's really more mentally demanding because you're so present with your patients that at the end of the day, you're so spent. So you do have to kind of let that go a little bit.
You know, the proof, they say, is in the pudding. And I would argue that the proof of success at a place like yours is how many people come in for a massage and then come back.
Yes.
So my question for you is, how many of your patients are regular patients?
I can give you an exact number of about 65%. Most of the people that come in, they're coming in either weekly, twice a month, and at the very least once a month. So once they come in, they realize the benefits of it. And we have a survey that we send out to new patients. And one of the questions in the survey is, previous to coming to the Boston Bodyworker, how many times have you received a massage? And I would say 60% of them have said more than 10 times. And the next question is, how likely are you to return? And almost 100% of them are very likely to return. So that tells me that they're experienced with massage, they know what they want, and now they've found the place that they're looking for.
And for full disclosure, I found you guys on the internet because I've had a shoulder problem, and I've been coming to visit you for a couple of months, and I've been doing acupuncture and massage, and the results have been slow, but I've been seeing progress.
Great.
Folks can learn more by visiting bostonbodyworker.com. Drew Freedman of the Boston Bodyworker in Copley Square, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us, Matt. We really appreciate coming in.
And you are tuned to the Boston Sunday Review.